Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We love getting into the nitty-gritty of some of history's biggest mysteries.
And today is no exception.
We're talking JFK,
Always a fascinating topic.
and we're going to zero in on one particularly controversial detail.
The possibility of a missed shot.
We're going to be using this journal called Dealey Plaza Echo.
Specifically, Volume 8, Issue 2.
It's dedicated to JFK assassination research, and it's packed with firsthand accounts and analysis that really challenge the official narrative.
You know the one laid out by the Warren Commission?
Yeah, that Oswald acted alone, 3 shots fired, 2 hitting President Kennedy.
A conclusion that's been debated for decades.
So just to refresh everyone's memory, the Warren Commission was the official body tasked with investigating the assassination, right?
Right.
And one of the articles in this journal, written by a guy named Hal Verb,
Oh yeah, I know his work.
throws a real wrench into those conclusions.
He presents a pretty compelling case.
He argues that there's evidence for a missed shot.
Before the fatal headshot.
And he uses a really interesting technique called blur analysis to support his theory.
Essentially, he analyzes the Zapruder film,
Oh, that famous home movie that captured the assassination.
looking for involuntary movements.
Like people flinching or startling in reaction to a loud noise.
Exactly.
That's so clever.
It's a way to read between the frames, so to speak.
So does this blur analysis actually point to an additional shot?
According to Verb, he says the timing of those reactions in the film,
Doesn't line up with the Warren Commission's timeline of just those 3 shots?
and to bolster his theory, he brings in eyewitness accounts as well.
Let's talk about those eyewitnesses. Verb mentions several people who claim to have either seen or heard this missed shot.
Right, he's pulling together different perspectives.
What stood out to you?
Well, there were a couple that immediately grabbed my attention. One is James Tague.
Now, he was actually wounded that day, wasn't he?
He was hit by debris, and based on his position and the timing,
What convinced?
that debris came from an early shot, a shot that missed its target.
Wow, to be hit by debris from a bullet? That's a pretty powerful claim.
And it gets even more interesting when you consider Royce G. Skelton's account.
What did he have to say?
Well, he very vividly describes seeing a missed shot hit the pavement.
Wow.
He was adamant that it was separate from the shots that actually hit Kennedy.
So we have 2 people, 2 very different accounts, both suggesting an extra shot.
And there's another witness, Carolyn Walther.
Where was she?
She was near the motorcade, and she distinctly remembers hearing a shot,
That seemed to miss.
potentially lining up with Skelton's account.
So we've got multiple witnesses, all independent of each other.
Describing a shot that just doesn't fit into that official narrative.
That's really compelling.
And what I find especially interesting is that they were all in different locations, different vantage points.
It wasn't like they were all standing together and misinterpreting the same thing.
Exactly. These are independent observations that all seem to point towards the same idea.
Of a missed shot.
And Verb actually lists several other witnesses who support this theory.
It really seems like this wasn't just some fringe idea.
It was something many people on the ground that day seemed to perceive.
This is getting really interesting.
There's one more detail that really piqued my interest.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Verb mentions a witness who initially reported seeing a man with a rifle on a building,
Hold on, wait a minute.
but later recanted their statement.
They saw someone with a rifle and then changed their story.
It's incredibly suspicious.
Why would they do that unless they were pressured or threatened?
It's one of those details that makes you wonder.
It definitely makes you wonder.
Oh.
But, we should acknowledge that not everyone agrees with this interpretation.
Of course, there are conflicting opinions on everything related to the JFK assassination.
For example, the House Select Committee on Assassinations,
The HSCA,
right, concluded that there probably was a conspiracy.
but they based that on a sound recording that some argue was misinterpreted.
So even among the experts, there's no clear consensus.
Some believe in the lone gunman, others point to a conspiracy, and now we have this compelling argument for a missed shot
It's a historical puzzle.
with a lot of missing pieces.
I love that analogy. It's like we're all amateur detectives.
Trying to piece together what really happened,
So far, we've been focusing on this missed shot theory.
which is fascinating.
But there's so much more to unpack in this issue of Dealey Plaza Echo.
It's a treasure trove of information.
And some of these other articles might actually connect to this idea of a missed shot or hint at something even bigger.
Oh, absolutely. For instance, there's an article about a Minox camera
Okay.
that was found in the FBI files.
A Minox camera.
Apparently, it was linked to Lee Harvey Oswald.
Nothing too surprising there.
But here's the kicker. The researcher who discovered it was shocked when he realized the camera's previous owner
The previous owner.
looked almost exactly like Michael Payne.
Like identical.
Almost.
Wait a minute, Michael Payne, wasn't he a key figure in the Warren Commission's investigation?
He was.
So you're telling me Oswald was using a camera?
That once belonged to someone who looked just like a key figure in the official investigation.
What are the chances?
It's a pretty wild coincidence.
It makes you question the thoroughness of the Warren Commission's investigation.
No doubt about it.
It's like all these seemingly separate details could be connected to something much bigger.
It's all part of the puzzle.
What else did you find in this issue?
Well, there's one more article that really caught my eye. It's a first-hand account by Robert E. Doran.
Okay, and who is he?
He claims to have encountered a couple at Carswell Air Force Base in 1960.
Hold on. 1960, that's years before the assassination.
I know, right?
What were they doing at a military base, and how does this tie into Dallas?
That's what makes it so fascinating.
Oh, so tell me more.
Doran describes their behavior as incredibly strange, and there are some really bizarre circumstances surrounding their time at Carswell.
Okay, now, I'm really intrigued. We're talking about a potential Oswald look-alike at military base years before the assassination.
This deep dive just got a whole lot more interesting.
Let's dig into that. Okay, so we're back, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around this whole Oswald look-alike at Carswell Air Force Base in 1960.
Yeah.
It's like something out of a spy movie.
Right. It definitely adds another layer of intrigue to this whole story, doesn't it?
So you mentioned that Doran observed some strange behavior from this couple.
Yeah. There were a few things that really stood out to him. For one thing, they would just disappear.
Disappear.
Like vanish for days or even weeks at a time. No explanation given.
And this was while they were stationed at the base, right?
Yep, they weren't just visitors. They were connected to Carswell in some capacity, which makes those unexplained absences even more suspicious.
Right. I mean, we're not talking about a quick trip to the grocery store.
No, Doran specifically mentions them packing suitcases like they were going on a long journey, but their destination and purpose remained a complete mystery.
That's so bizarre.
It is, and it gets even stranger.
Okay, lay it on me.
Well, Doran also mentions that the man who resembled Oswald was adamant about not living on the base.
Really? That's pretty unusual, isn't it?
It went against the norm, especially for married personnel at the time.
So he insisted on renting a house off base.
Exactly. It's like he wanted to keep a low profile.
Stay under the radar.
Maybe, or perhaps he had something to hide.
Did Doran notice anything strange about the woman?
Not as much. He doesn't go into as much detail about her, but he does mention that she worked as a nurse at a local hospital.
A nurse.
But get this, he never actually saw her at the hospital or met anyone who knew her.
That's weird. It's like she was a ghost.
Right. Almost like she existed in the shadows.
Did he ever explicitly link this woman to Marina Oswald?
Unfortunately, no. He admits that his memory of her appearance is a bit hazy. The connection really hinges on his gut feeling and the striking resemblance between the man and Lee Harvey Oswald.
So we have these two figures both shrouded in mystery, the man with his potential ties to intelligence operations, and the woman whose true identity and purpose remain unknown.
And that's what makes Doran's account so intriguing. It suggests that Carswell might have been more than just an Air Force base. It could have been a hub for activities directly or indirectly related to the assassination.
Wow. Okay, that's a pretty big claim.
It is, but when you consider all the strange details, it's hard not to entertain the possibility.
And Doran's account isn't the only thing suggesting something unusual was happening at Carswell.
You're thinking of that incident with the presidential aircraft?
Exactly. Just days after Kennedy's death, there's this report of multiple presidential aircraft landing at Carswell.
Remember Keith Bridger, the Air Force technician?
Yes, he was the one who witnessed it.
He saw 6 silver aircraft, which he believed to be Air Force One and its accompanying fleet.
And this landing was never officially reported.
Nope. It was all very hush-hush.
It definitely sounds like something was being kept under wraps.
And the timing is just too coincidental to ignore.
Right. Days after the assassination, presidential aircraft are secretly landing at a military base in Texas.
It raises a lot of questions.
Like, why were those planes there? What were they transporting? Who was on board?
We can only speculate.
Bridger theorized that they might have been carrying something or someone of vital importance, maybe related to the investigation or even a cover-up.
It's a possibility.
So we have these glimpses into potential secrets, but not enough information to fully understand their significance.
It's a common frustration when dealing with historical research, especially events like the JFK assassination.
Yeah, you often have to work with incomplete information, piecing together fragments of evidence and making educated guesses about their meaning.
It's like having a jigsaw puzzle with half the pieces missing.
But even those fragments can offer valuable insights.
Absolutely, they can help us see the bigger picture, even if it's still blurry.
So we've got the possibility of a missed shot, the camera connection, and now these mysterious happenings at Carswell Air Force Base.
It's quite a collection of oddities.
But how do they all fit together? Is there some thread that connects them?
That's the ultimate question, isn't it? To find the unifying element, the underlying narrative that ties these disparate threads together.
Are we talking about a conspiracy?
It's certainly a possibility. Some researchers believe that there were multiple factions at play.
Like who?
Well, it could have been elements within the government, intelligence agencies, organized crime, even foreign powers.
Each with their own motives and agendas.
Exactly. And these seemingly random events at Carswell could be interpreted as evidence of those groups maneuvering and manipulating events behind the scenes.
So are you saying that these events at Carswell, the odd couple, the aircraft landings, could be signs of a pre-assassination operation or even a post-assassination cover-up?
It's worth considering.
Okay, I'm listening.
For instance, what if the couple Dorn observed was involved in some kind of intelligence gathering or surveillance?
Maybe targeting individuals or activities at the base?
And those unexplained disappearances? What if they were covert missions, their true purpose concealed even from their colleagues?
That would certainly explain the secrecy surrounding their movements.
And then there's the hypnotist with that strange light device.
Yeah, what was that all about?
Perhaps he was involved in some form of mind control or interrogation technique.
That's a chilling thought.
It is, and it makes you wonder what else might have been going on that we don't know about.
And the silver aircraft, could they be connected to this hypothetical intelligence operation?
Possibly. Imagine those planes being used to transport sensitive materials or personnel in and out of the country, bypassing traditional channels.
All under the cover of secrecy.
Exactly.
So we're essentially saying that Carswell Air Force Base, this seemingly ordinary military installation, could have been a central node in a vast and shadowy network.
It's a bold claim, but the evidence, however circumstantial, points in that direction.
This deep dive has taken us down a rabbit hole, and I'm not sure I want to come back up.
It's fascinating, isn't it, to think that there might be so much more to the JFK assassination than we ever realized?
We've gone from a single article about a missed shot to a full-blown exploration of potential intelligence operations, conspiracy theories, and the possibility of a cover-up.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
There's still more to unpack in this issue of Dealey Plaza Echo.
Oh yeah, we haven't even touched on some of the more intriguing articles.
You've got me hooked. Let's keep digging. Welcome back, everyone. It feels like we've just tumbled headfirst into a world of espionage and intrigue.
I know, right? Those potential connections we uncovered at Carswell are mind-boggling.
And it makes me wonder what other secrets might be hiding in plain sight.
Well, speaking of hidden secrets, there's one article in this issue of Dealey Plaza Echo that I think you'll find particularly interesting.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
It's titled, "Sherlock Had a Word for It."
Sherlock Holmes, the famous detective.
Yeah.
What does he have to do with the JFK assassination?
That's the question, isn't it?
I'm hooked.
The author Ian Griggs argues that the key to solving the JFK puzzle lies in adopting a Sherlockian approach to the evidence.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's about combining keen observation, logical deduction, and a willingness to consider all possibilities, even the seemingly far-fetched ones.
So it's not just about finding a smoking gun, but about recognizing the importance of those tiny details, the seemingly insignificant clues.
Precisely like Sherlock Holmes said, the little things are infinitely the most important.
It's about looking for those subtle hints that might point to a larger hidden truth.
Exactly. It's about seeing the bigger picture, the network of connections that might have led to that fateful day in Dallas.
Okay, so how does this Sherlockian approach apply to the JFK assassination?
Well, for one thing, Griggs points out that several witnesses who testified before the Warren Commission mentioned hearing a missed shot early in the sequence.
Oh yeah, I remember that coming up before.
It's a detail that often gets overlooked or dismissed by those who stick strictly to the official narrative.
And it ties in with those accounts we discussed earlier from James Tagroy Skelton and Carolyn Walther.
Exactly. Their testimonies, while circumstantial, add weight to the theory that there might have been more than just 3 shots fired.
And if there were more than 3 shots, well, that really throws the whole lone gunman theory out the window.
It suggests a much more complicated scenario, possibly multiple shooters, a coordinated attack, a conspiracy far more intricate than what the Warren Commission concluded.
It's like we're peeling back the layers of an onion, and each layer reveals something more shocking.
That's a great analogy.
And when you start connecting those eyewitness accounts with other inconsistencies in the official narrative,
The discrepancies in Oswald's alleged movements, the circumstances surrounding his death.
it really starts to paint a very different picture.
A picture that's far more unsettling.
This is all incredibly fascinating, but it's also a bit overwhelming. It's like we've stumbled into a labyrinth of secrets and conspiracies, and I'm not sure we have the right map to navigate it.
I understand that feeling. It's easy to get lost in the details. But remember, the goal isn't necessarily to find all the answers. It's about embracing the complexity, the ambiguity, and the ongoing quest for truth.
So we're explorers charting uncharted territory.
Precisely. And each new piece of evidence might lead us further down the rabbit hole, challenging our assumptions and revealing a reality that's far more complicated than we initially imagined.
You're right. This is all about the journey, the process of discovery, the thrill of uncovering those hidden connections.
And remember, we're not alone in this quest. Our listeners are a vital part of this deep dive.
Absolutely.
Their curiosity, their insights, their willingness to question everything are essential to this investigation.
So to all our listeners out there, consider yourselves honorary members of our JFK Detective Squad.
Your minds and your voices are crucial to unraveling this enduring mystery.
We've come a long way, haven't we, from a single question about a missed shot to a full-blown exploration of potential intelligence operations, conspiracy theories, and the possibility of a cover-up.
It's been quite a ride.
And I think the most important takeaway from all of this is the power of critical thinking, the importance of questioning everything, and the realization that history is not always as straightforward as it seems.
Well said. I couldn't agree more.
So to our listeners, keep those minds open. Keep asking those tough questions, and never stop exploring a truth is out there waiting to be discovered.
And who knows, maybe one of you listening right now holds the key to unlocking the remaining secrets of the JFK assassination.
That's a great thought to leave on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the JFK assassination. We'll see you next time.